It should be a great demonstration. My name is Aaron, I'll be helping him out. Now to begin with, Lewis is going to start this piece like every piece we make up here by picking up hot glass from our furnace. And inside of that furnace we have about 300 pounds of clear glass. Now when it comes out it looks kind of orange. That's because the glass is 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's actually hotter than lava and it's glowing. It's giving off its own light source in the form of radiant heat. But Lewis doesn't want to keep this clear for long. He's actually rolling through this colored glass, kind of like rolling an ice cream cone in sprinkles. You just roll the hot glass into the color and it sticks to the surface. This is an opal aubergine. Does anybody know what color that is? Aubergine? It's what? Is it green? I don't know. I've never heard of it before. Sometimes we get these weird colors that says no refill, so we kind of have a standard set of colors and then we get these odd colors. And you know, we have about 240 different colors of like shades of red and blues, but they got to come up with these really interesting names. So, do you know what it is? Aubergine? He's never used it before, so neither of us know what this is going to look like, but that's what color it is. Yeah, Google it. It's going to be beautiful because Lewis is making it. So anyways, he's adding the color. He went into a mold to give the color some stripes, but our next step is the glass inflation process. That's what we all came here to see, the glass blowing. So he's picked up the glass on a blowpipe. That pipe that he has in his hands, it's hollow, just like a drinking straw, so he can blow air into one end, inflate the hot glass at the other, kind of like you're blowing up a balloon. So here we go, he gives it a puff. Keep your eyes on the glass. You see it expand. That is our air bubble forming. We call that the starter bubble. I know it's a little hard to see, but there's an air bubble in there, maybe about the size of a golf ball. And we call it our starter bubble because everything you see up here, a vase, a bowl, a bottle, a plate, it all starts out looking like a bubble. From a bubble, you pretty much can make anything. It's the foundation of glass working, or glass blowing at least. The only thing Lewis is limited to is the size of our vase. Now we could make a very tiny vase, but we want to make something bigger for you folks today. So he's going to let this cool down, solidify, and then he'll come right back over to our furnace, pick up another layer of clear glass to make a larger piece. That's how we make bigger and bigger things. We build it up in layers. So he just plunges that colored bubble into the furnace, spins the pipe, and when he comes out, you can see he has quite a bit more glass on the end. And remember, that glass is 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you want me to yell at him for you? We're in here. I think they heard me. Okay. How you doing? Right down here? Okay. So, that glass is 2,000 degrees. It's very soft and fluid. We tell people it's like honey. You know, it has about the same consistency as honey would have at this point. So you can imagine having that much honey on the end of a stick. It'd be very hard to control. Lewis is using a variety of tools to shape and center the glass. This is one of our more interesting ones. That pad is actually our local newspaper, the Corning Leader. It's about 10 sheets of newspaper, folded up, soaked in water, and you can use the newspaper to shape the glass. Very versatile tool, relatively inexpensive compared to our other tools up here. But you will see Lewis begin to work very quickly. That's one way you can tell a skilled glass worker. They're very fast and efficient. They work the glass very hot. And Lewis has well over 30 years of experience, so he will make this process look very easy. But you can see he's inflating the glass, shaping the glass all at the same time. Doesn't take much air pressure to inflate the hot glass. It's actually a very light puff. It's about as much air pressure as you need to blow out a candle. Another thing you'll notice, Lewis is always turning the pipe. Very important. You can imagine what happens if you were to stop turning. We go from making a vase to a puddle on the floor. Gravity would pull that glass towards the earth. It's probably one of the hardest skills for beginners to learn. So you have to keep that pipe turning throughout the entire process. I know we were asking about the color, and I just want to let you know one thing about glass color is you never see the true color of the glass while you're working it. We won't know exactly what this will look like until tomorrow. For example, reds look brown, oranges look brown, yellows look kind of like a brown orange. So colors look pretty muddy and pretty dull when we're working on it. So we won't see the true color until tomorrow morning. Yes? It's deep purple. Okay, thank you very much. So it does kind of look purple here, but sometimes you can't tell until it's blowing out. So aubergine is a deep purple. You hear that, Lewis? Deep purple. You knew that. Why'd you tell me you didn't know? We had the audience Google it for you. He said he knew it. He always says he knows it after the fact. Well, if you look up above, I want you to pay attention to this. This is a really unique view. You can actually see inside of this furnace that Lewis is working out of. We call that our reheating furnace. It's about 2,300 degrees in there. And as far as I know, the museum studios throughout the world are the only place you can look in the furnace as the glassmaker works. So pretty cool view. But basically, as Lewis is working the glass, it's cooling down, it's solidifying, and he can always go back over to this furnace and warm it back up to a workable temperature. And you can see he heated the bottom of the bubble, and then he used some centrifugal force and gravity to start to stretch the glass into a longer shape. It's one of the amazing properties of glass. You can actually stretch glass thinner than a human hair. I was at the fiber optics demonstration, and they said you could take a piece of glass the size of a golf ball and stretch it the length of a football field. So just to kind of give you an idea of what the glass is capable of. So Lewis is going for a nice tapered shape. Do you want a paddle or anything, Lewis? Okay. So we have a beautiful base shape, but it's not going to rest too well on our table. So Lewis will actually add a foot to this in a few minutes. And that will give our vase a stable surface to rest on. So he's actually flattening the glass. Look at that. He's taking his newspaper and kind of giving it a flattened, or more of a two-dimensional shape. Very nice little extra effect there. All right, you want to drop a foot on it, Lewis? Now remember, at 2,000 degrees, I told you this glass is a lot like honey. And you're going to see that in a second. I'm going to pick up some clear glass, and Lewis will drip it right onto the bottom of our vase. So soon, you blew it out too much. It does look like a dark purple. Nice color, I like it. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so as soon as I stop spinning, gravity is going to take over, and Lewis will drip it onto the bottom of our piece. And as soon as that hot, clear glass touches, it's on there for good. Hot glass sticks really well to hot glass at this point. And we'll use a little teamwork to flatten the bottom of this. Yeah. So I'm kind of pushing with the paddle. That's going to kind of spin the foot out and make sure it's nice and flat. There we go. Nice job. So this is how we make most of our vessels. We make the bottom half first. And our next step is to flip this piece around 180 degrees to work on the top. To do that, I'm going to make a tool called a punty. And this is something you'll only see in the handmade process. Probably most of the glass you use at home, it's made by machines or it's automated. And it doesn't go through this transfer. But a punty is a tool, so it's a solid iron, a little bit of glass on the end. That little bit of glass will act like glue. We'll stick it right to the bottom of our foot, break the piece free from Lewis's pipe. That's how we flip it around to work on the rim. So here we go. Lewis is going to stick it on the bottom. Now, around the top of the vase, you might notice he made a tight constriction. We think of that kind of like a crease in a chocolate bar. It's a weak spot. And it will allow him to break the glass very cleanly and very evenly from the pipe. So he chills that constriction, a quick tap, and the glass should break free. There we go, just like it's supposed to. Now, in order for it to break, it does have to be pretty cold. So I want to get right back over to our furnace and start warming it back up. But if you look up above on our monitors, you might be able to see there's a small opening left behind. Okay. So that little opening, right now it is very cold, it's razor sharp, it's a little bit uneven. So Lewis is going to spend a good amount of time warming this up, and then he'll probably trim the lip. Because it is uneven, that's not going to work. So what he's going to do is take a pair of scissors and cut the lip. He'll cut through the glass just like he's cutting through paper, and that's going to give him a very thin and even edge for his finished piece. And then after that, we'll add a couple handles to the piece, which is going to be pretty fun. Lewis does these. There's a lot of great handles. That's the great part about handles. There's so many different styles to do and variations. Are we going to do the same handles as we did this morning, Lewis? Okay, so these are really nice ones. A lot of people wonder how we know how long to heat the glass, and it really comes down to years of experience. But one thing we look for, and you can see from your seats, is when Lewis comes out, the top part of this vase will be glowing orange. Remember, that's the radiant heat. And just from experience, we can kind of look at the intensity of that orange glow and judge the temperature. So there we go. You can see the top is glowing orange, but if you watch carefully, that orange glow will slowly fade away. That's the heat leaving the glass and the glass beginning to solidify. You want to paddle, Lewis? But you can see how soft and malleable it is. He opens that up into a nice flare. We'll do it a little bit more. I always tell people one of the neat things about watching this demonstration is the tools Lewis is using, the techniques, they haven't changed a whole lot since the beginning of glass blowing. And glass blowing like this is about 2,000 years old, so it is a very old art form. I think the Phoenicians of the Roman Empire were the first people to blow glass. That's where modern day Lebanon and Syria are located. Probably our biggest advancements have been our furnaces. These are all electric, very rare. Downstairs, our glass studio is all gas-fired. That's more common these days. But 2,000 years ago, they would use wood to fire the furnaces. Look at this. He's kind of, I call it making a taco lip. He's kind of making that lip into a taco. Or some people call it a fan lip. I always tend to use food as an analogy. So Lewis is pretty much done with the shape of the vase. Now we're just going to add the handles. And these handles that Lewis makes, they're really nice. They're I call them cut handles or split handles. He's actually going to cut the handle in half and kind of make a hole or a negative space in the handle. So, handles are pretty difficult. They're not something you try your first couple of years. But, that's just a regular handle. This handle's, let's say, very difficult compared to most of them. So he applies it. And then very quickly, he'll cut it in half, almost kind of making two handles. And then you can see how malleable the glass is. He's kind of stretching it and pulling it, just like you would kind of pull taffy. I always say what makes it hard is when you're making these handles, it's like a wet noodle. It's flopping all over the place. It's really hard to control. So Lewis has to be very quick and agile to catch the handle, apply the handle, shape the handle, all before it cools down. So did you see how he kind of brought it back together? Now we kind of have this space in between. Very nicely done. Now putting on one handle, as you can see, is pretty difficult. The hard part is putting on two handles that look alike, that are symmetrical. They look the same. My job as Lewis's assistant is I try to bring him the same amount of glass, the same shape, the same heat each time, and it makes his job a lot easier to match the handles up. Okay. Here we go, just gonna go through basically the same steps. The one thing he has to be really careful of at this point is the overall temperature. You know, even though the vase is pretty much done, we can't let it get too cold. If by accident Lewis is working and that vase drops below 1,000 degrees, it will shatter and crack, being 100 pieces all over the floor from thermal stress building up in the glass. So even though this piece may look at room temperature, just remember, throughout this entire demonstration, it is well above 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And we know that because it's still in one piece. You can see he did a great job of matching those handles up. He can still adjust it a little bit if he needs to. To actually get this down to room temperature, we have to cool the glass very slowly in a process called annealing. This vase will take about 12 hours to come down to room temperature. And all glass, this glass, your window glass, your drinking glasses at home, all glass must go through this slow cooling process. And it really depends on the thickness. If you go right outside these doors here, we have the Palomar telescope lens. It's this big honeycomb looking piece of glass. The one that they used in the Palomar telescope took 11 months to cool down. So you can get some pretty long cooling times if you have some very thick glass. But most of the stuff we make here, 12 hours is plenty of time. So Lewis is just kind of putting the final touches on it before we load it in to our annealing oven. It's just kind of equalizing the heat. Remember, if we try to knock this off or put it away too cold, it will crack and break. So once again, it just comes down to years of experience of knowing the glass, knowing the heat. So he's giving it a good overall heat in our furnace. And then we're gonna have to break it free from the pipe. So where that pipe is attached on the foot, when it breaks free, it leaves behind this little scar. We call that the punty mark. So if you ever flip a piece over, you see that little scar where the pipe's attached, good indicator it's handmade. So there we go, beautiful vase. I think it's the first time I've ever seen you make a shape like that, Lewis. He said it's the first time he's ever done it. Not bad. Get in there. There we go. No, I wouldn't do that here. There we go. So it's razor sharp where that glass breaks free. I'll get it right over to our oven before it drops below that 1,000 degree mark, and we'll be able to hold this in our hands tomorrow when we come into work. There we go, a beautiful vase. Great job by Lewis Olson.